So welcome, everybody. It is so good to be with you for our final session of 2024. It's been an amazing year, and we've got some familiar faces coming in, and we're so thrilled to see you again. And those who've come regularly through the year, we just feel such a bond and connection to you. And for those who are joining for the first time, just welcome. Just welcome to this time of growth and learning and connecting with us. And just as we think about this time together, if you haven't heard of 54 or don't know much about us, what do we do? What are we passionate about? We're passionate about ministries, about leaders, and about guiding ministries on your learning journey towards your full potential. And it really is exciting to see ministry leaders engaging in the 54 platform and investing in the health of their organizations, of their teams, of every aspect of the way they lead their organization. It excites us because healthy leaders leading healthy organizations will have the greatest impact. And we know that. We see that organizations that thrive are far more likely to achieve their mission and to enjoy the journey and build unity as you work towards this. But what we're really excited about is you as the leaders of the organizations. You walk a journey of aloneness often, facing challenges often on your own, and leadership can be lonely. And today really is a chance for you to reflect back on what you've achieved and to celebrate this year, to celebrate your growth, to celebrate your impact, but also just to think about the coming year and to think about how you as a leader can grow more resilient as a leader. So growing resilient leadership practices for a healthy mindset and lasting impact. I'm really excited about today's session with Nina. I'm going to introduce Nina shortly, but we're going to go through a couple of practical things before we do that. Nina is a familiar face for you, for all of you who've been with us through the year. But before I introduce her fully, let's just do a bit of housekeeping. So first of all, this session is recorded, and the recording will be available on our website, the 54 website, after the session. Probably by tomorrow morning, it should be up, and you'll be able to review this if you want to, and as well as the slide deck. So if you would like to refer back to any of the slides, the slide deck will be available for you. As we go through the time together, stay on mute. It's just so helpful for us not to be disturbed, but at times we'd love you to come off and also contribute. And so be ready with questions. We're going to have time for questions in the session. And so we'd love your feedback and thoughts, questions as we go. And it's also so wonderful seeing you all. And so if you're able to keep your camera on, if you have the bandwidth for it, then keep it on. We'd love to see you. I just want to make a quick reference to some learnings on 54 that are perhaps relevant to today. If you go to www.54collective.com, there's some great courses by Richard Clinton on the making of a leader, where he talks about how God develops us over time, the stages of leadership development and living a focused life. And so do make use of those leadership resources that are there, learning courses that are engaging, easy to go through, and will certainly be of great benefit to you as you think about leading your organization now and into the future. So, as always, we're going to jump into some aha slides and get a bit of engagement from you. And so let's come back to the beginning one. If you haven't yet joined aha slides, go to ahaslides.com/54, or there's a QR code and you can use your phone to scan that QR code and get into this. And we're going to go through a few questions and use this at the end. So please stay in it. We love to just get engagement with you through this. And again, just thinking back on the year, we're into December and not long left until the end of 2024. And then we're into a whole new year. And it's good at times like this to pause and reflect back and think about, what am I thankful for? And so somebody there's put celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary. Amazing. Congratulations for 25 years of marriage. Let's just really celebrate that with you. Already mentioned the person who visited South Africa. If that was the first time, I hope it was a brilliant experience. Unique leadership growth opportunities. Like sometimes sometimes we're not so thankful for those. I'm really glad to see somebody is thankful for that. Yeah, for waves that throw us onto the rock of changes. I think there's also Charles Spurgeon said, I've learned to kiss the wave that throws me on the rock of
Sorry,
ages.
the rock of ages, not changes. Sorry, Ian.
Yeah, no, that's good, but he's also the rock of changes. So it works both ways. Great colleagues. I'm so thankful for great colleagues, for a great team. You read more books than usual. Well done. Gosh, that's a good goal, actually, thinking about that. I think I should be thinking about the same thing, reading more books in the coming year. Grateful for 7 years of marriage, my wife, my son. This is fantastic. I'm just so stirred to read your contributions and the things that have, as you think back to this year that you're thankful for. It really actually just stirs such a vibrancy and life in me personally, and so good to do, isn't it? Just to think about. I'm not going to rush this one actually because it just feels like there's a lot of life, and I can see people are still typing. But grateful for the gift of life. It's a miracle that I'm so alive and healthy. That sounds like someone who's been through some tough physical things this year. And again, we just celebrate that with you. Really amazing. God guiding through tough transitions of a part of the organization moving on. Wow, leadership transitions are tough. If you've been through a leadership transition this year, well done. And if you've survived it, just well done to you. That's incredible. An opportunity to help people and share hope. What a gift. Oh, what a gift. Wow. Okay, the 25 years has been topped. Somebody has topped it just saying 30 years of ministry and 40 years of marriage. Are we going to have to celebrate that? But do you want to come off mute and just share who that is? That's amazing. If you don't mind, if you're not, if you're a bit shy, then feel free to stay on mute. But if that's you, just let us know who you are. We'd love to celebrate you.
That's me, Andy.
Oh, I missed Andy. Amazing. 30 years of ministry, Andy,
I know,
and
30.
40
I
years
think
of
I think
marriage.
that's easy. That's harder to survive the 30 years of ministry than it is to survive the 40 years of marriage. Anyway, we celebrated hard and good, and the whole year it's been like a bit of a celebration. So the back half of this year has been tirelessly enjoying ourselves. So it's been good.
Wow. Congratulations, Andy. And we just really celebrate with you. That's
Thank
so
you.
wonderful.
It is the grace of God, really. It can only be.
Oh, so good. So good. Thankful for seasons that came to an end and expectant for new to come. Yeah, I mean, there's letting go of seasons that we've been in and moving into new seasons. There's grief that comes with that, right? And it's good to acknowledge that this is hard and it's tough, but there's also more to come and to be excited about that. Oh, wow. I'm just feeling I must say, as I'm reading these things, I feel such a fullness of heart with you all and just for the celebration of this year and all that it's been. So thank you. I'm going to move forward now and we'll send these through to you. It's so fun to read and to just be thankful as we end the year together. Okay, so let's just get a sense of where we're at as the year closes out on the scale of surviving to thriving. Where do you place yourself? Are you closer to the surviving side or the thriving side? Where do you place yourself on that? It's been a lot of us, we've been through a lot, and you've had to fight and fight for a lot, not fight against, but fight for so much this year. And it's just good to get a sense of where we're at today on the scale of surviving to thriving. I must say, I would place myself probably towards the thriving state. I often find towards the end of the year, I feel a real exhaustion, but this year I haven't felt that as much. And I think that really is for me a testament to my team. And I would say it's just been such a joy. A lot of you put in the gratitude response. Just thankful for the team that you've walked with, and so good to celebrate that. And I think I feel the same. I feel like as a team, the 54 team, we've grown together. We've grown unity. We've just achieved so much this year, and I'm really love. It's just enabled me to end the year feeling a bit more of a thriving space. So it's good to see there's a bit of a mix here. Average about three between 1 and 5. So midway. Some of us are scraping it over the finish line this year, and some of us are running. And wherever you're at today, you're going to find something that's going to touch your heart, and you'll get to take away for your leadership. And I'm really trusting today that this is going to be a session that speaks to your heart. So last one before we hand over to Nina. think about some of the practices you've done this year that have really helped you thrive. This is an opportunity for us to actually learn and be inspired by some of those practices and perhaps take them away and put them into practice ourselves. So, for you, what are some of those practices that have really helped you to thrive? What are the things that have helped you to thrive? What are the things you've done that you've noticed that you've done them regularly? And through the course of doing those things, you find your energy and your focus and your life is just in a better space because of them. Physical exercise, that's so good. I've had a couple of back injuries this year, and I've noticed in those times of having back injuries, not being able to exercise, my whole being has just been in a different space, and I really missed it. And so, yeah, really good to be able to get out, and whether it's a walk or a run or whatever level it is, if that movement is really important. Continually learning, I love that. So good for us to be constantly learning, growing, spending time in nature with God, intentionally cutting of good things to make space for the best things. Oh, I love that. Cutting of good things to make space for the best things. Don't settle for good, go for the best. That's what God has for us as well. So I love that. Ah, making time to attend these things. 54. Yes, thank you. Whoever put that in, fantastic. That really encourages us. Spiritual disciplines of prayer, deepening relationships with healthy community, regular meeting with my coach. So good. 3-day personal retreat away from work, ministry, and home just to listen to God. Oh, I did a weekend like that, 2 days, 48 hours like that. And it was just this year. So I want to do that as a practice in the coming year. It was really rich for me. Checking in with friends, really connecting with them. More time for self-reflection and great mentors. Love that. Deliberately disengaging from work when I park my car at home and choosing to engage my mind at home. That's a real discipline, that actually. I'm glad somebody put that in. It's to really stop and let go of work and be engaged and present with our families. There's something really beautiful about that. More networking. I want a coach. Yeah, so good. And then worship, daily silent reflection, switching off social media. Oh, there's so much here. Keep putting those in. We're going to put these into the slide deck or share them with you all afterwards. I'm going to keep moving here because we really want to get into the meat of what today is about. And I just want to, for a moment, celebrate Nina. We've had, this is our 12th session, and a lot of you have connected with Nina over the course of this year. And we've run a poll with every session, and we've said to you, hey, did you find this session applicable to your job? And it's so helpful for us to get the feedback and to know whether what we're bringing to you is actually landing. And 94% of you agreed or strongly agreed that what we've done this year has been applicable to your job. We asked have you learned something worthwhile in this session? And 96% of you agreed or strongly agreed with that. We asked you, was the session engaging? Did it keep your interest? 94% of you agreed or strongly agreed with that. And then we asked you, would you recommend this session to a friend? And we gives us our Net Promoter Score, our NPS, which came out at 68, which is actually really high by international standards. An NPS of over 50 is recognized as a really good quality piece. And so we're going to, not that these are all, like we know some of our sessions this year have landed, more than others, and that's okay. We're also going to continue to grow and improve in what we bring and how we bring it to you in the coming year. But this is for me, just to celebrate you, Nina, that you've led these sessions. You've been amazing in how you have engaged with the specialists over the year. I was thinking back to what we've done this year. We've done releasing local funding with Redina Colonetti. What a brilliant session, an amazing lady she was. We've done governance with Pat McMillan, reviewing your strategy with Jim Wirt. We've done knowing if you're making a difference. Steve Patty, such a brilliant mind and such a great heart for helping organizations think about impact. We've looked at mission drift and how to stay true to your mission with Peter Greer. We've spent time with Corey Rich thinking about how to grow your brand and your awareness in the community you're serving. And with all of these, Nina, you've done an incredible amount of work preparing the specialists, connecting with them, just really bringing something that's of richness for each leader, for each session. And I just want to celebrate you for that. And I know not just connecting with the specialists who've come, but also connecting with each of the users of the 54 platform. And you've done that. You have an incredible relational capability. And I know the topic we're talking about today is very close to your heart, something that you are very passionate about because you really care for people. And so I'm excited that today we get to showcase some of the things that you're excited about. And I know that what you're bringing is going to be an incredible blessing to each person on this session. And as we prayed for this time together, I just want to say one last thing before I hand over to Nina, that there's a real sense that for each person today, that God has something for you to take away. And so Nina's just a mouthpiece. She's a conduit for what God wants to bring. And so won't you open your heart and your spirit to allow God to stir something fresh in you as we close out this year, that you would end the year with a new sense of refreshment, of God's presence, and excitement about where God is leading you in the coming year. So, with that, Nina, over to you.
Thank you, Ian. This is so great to be on the other side of the table screen. But it's wonderful to be here and to end the year strong with all of you. I was so excited for the session. So I feel like we need to do a quick sound check. Won't you get ready to unmute? And I'm gonna count 1, 2, and then woohoo. Okay. Can you do that for me? That's the only thing I'll ask of you today. So woohoo on 3, but I'm gonna say 1, 2, woohoo. Okay, here we go. 1, 2,
Woohoo!
woohoo!
Woohoo! Yeah.
It was a little bit slow, a little bit of a delay, but it's so great to hear, so great to hear your voices and to see some familiar faces. So welcome everyone. I trust that you'll have a great session. Today we're going to be talking about growing resilient leadership. Like Ian said, it's a topic that's really dear to my heart. And how I landed on this is when I started in consulting in the engineering space, I didn't see people thrive. It looked like people are kind of just slogging along and surviving their day to day. And I had this conviction that the Lord has created us to live a life of thriving, to love life, to enjoy life, and to enjoy the work that we do. And so I was frustrated and thought, why am I not seeing any of this? And so as an engineer at the time, I went to neuroscience and to understand how has God created us. And what I loved and what I discovered is that the things that neuroscientists finally came to after years of studies is stuff that's all in scripture. So I'm particularly excited to share that with you today because I believe in it. I've used it in my own life when I realized that I'm not in a healthy space, not in a healthy mindset. So I can truly share from a place of deep gratitude and wonder. So on that note, I want to start off with this Psalm 139, verse 12 to 13. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. So, I mean, if you have to jump off early today, you can just go read the Bible because most of what I'm going to be telling you today is captured in there. If you want to understand how that works and how that relates to how our brain works, then please stay tuned right until the end. We'll have some time for questions as well. So I'm really excited to engage with you. Okay, so now I'm going to need you to go to your chat and be ready to type out. Have you ever experienced, you can just type yes, or you can share your experience just in 1 or 2 words. Have you experienced that moment where you have to step onto a stage or you stepping into really difficult conversations and the stakes and the emotions are really high and or you you're just in a moment where you feel like, ooh, I blanked out. I wanted to say something really important now, but you forgot your words. Your hands are getting really shaky. Your palms are sweating. Has anyone experienced that? And I'm going to ask you to shout out some of the stuff. Oh, yes, often excellent. So glad you guys can relate. Of course, 100%. Okay. Good to hear. It's not a tough crowd. Awesome. Okay. Have you experienced that moment where by accident you said something funny and the other person laughed and you felt really good? It feels like you're connecting with this person. It feels like this relationship is going pretty well. And you find yourself searching for other opportunities to make a joke again. Some of them land, some of them don't. But you just naturally navigate to recreate this moment. That was so nice. Have you experienced that? Let's see. Yes. Okay. So some of you have got a sense of humor. That's good to hear. But you might also relate to if you've experienced being busy with something that you love and time just goes by. Dad jokes, widely appreciated. Even if you're not a dad, babes, that counts. So if you're busy with something that you enjoy and time just flies by and you're so focused and you're creative and you come up with ideas that's really strategic. What is happening then is, let me quickly take you through this. And this is so exciting. I love explaining this because I often see people going, but the thing is, our brain responds in a very predictable way to these things that we experience. It's not a coincidence that every time you step into a space where you perceive threats, that you've got that response. And it's not a coincidence that at times you feel like you're being really creative, or you can learn and you can respond well. You can engage in conversations in a great way and in an appropriate way. The wonderful thing and the good news today that I'm going to share with you is that we can do something about it. We can manage that. We're not a victim to these cues, but we just need to be aware of how it works. So let me explain that quickly to you. There's this really cool little feature in our brain function. It's called the amygdala. It's the size of an almond. So if that'll help you remember, then just call it the almond. They're about right here in your brain, and it is responsible for tagging every sensory cue that comes that you perceive. So anything you smell, anything you see, it tags that sensory cue and says, this thing is going to help me survive, or this thing is not going to help me survive. So what happens when you step onto that stage and you perceive this threat of social belonging, that people are going to judge you, you're going to forget your words, you're not going to get this right, this amygdala says to your brainstem, I'm in trouble. I need to get away from here. So then it pumps blood to your arms. The brainstem is connected to your spinal cord. So it's a very physical response. You feel your hands and arms going a little bit jittery. You can't sit still. Have you seen people on the stage doing that shuffle thing? It's probably because they're really nervous. And you forget all of your words, and all that you can do is fight, flee, or freeze. You can't remember, you can't learn, you can't engage, you can't respond, you can't think creatively. You're in a survival state. You're in a primal response to a perceived threat. On the other hand, if you are invited to an opportunity to do something good for your community, and it feels so good, and you see that you're making a difference, and you feel like you belong, and you feel like what you do matter. And when you drive home, you just find yourself thinking about all the other options in which you can participate and contribute. And there's just these creative juices flowing. That is the amygdala saying, this is good for my survival. I need to get more of this. I need to find a way to close the distance between me and this reward. That's your prefrontal cortex. And that is the space in your brain where you will see reasoning, learning, strategic thinking, creativity, and problem solving. Okay, you might be wondering why I'm telling you this, because it's not just interesting, it's also relevant. The thing is, our brains pays attention to the most basic thing that is going to threaten our survival. And if the brain is focused on that thing, it cannot do any of the other things. So Ian, I heard that didn't make any sense, right? Shall I use an example?
Yes. Give us a good example then, Nina. That would be really helpful.
Great. So if you stand outside of your house and you're in such a fun conversation with someone and you're building relationship and you're learning and engaging, and all of a sudden you smell fire and you also see a little bit of smoke coming from your house, there's no way you can fully engage and be present in that conversation anymore because your focus has shifted. Because first you need to sort out that cue that's telling you there's a possible threat around me. And only then can you shift back to the prefrontal cortex, to reasoning and learning and engaging. Or if you're standing on the side of a road, talking or reading, you can be reading on your phone, and this is just how amazing the brain works. It's completely unconscious. So you see a bus or a car coming your way very fast and it's out of control. You'll just jump out of the way. You'll stop immediately with what you're doing. Or the classic hot plate example. This is just to explain the bad for survival brainstem. If you've never encountered a hot plate before and you touch it for the first time and it burns, it tells you, oof, this is bad for my survival. The next time you can come close to it, before even feeling the pain, you pull away. So that's our way of naturally surviving and getting through our day to day. And it's important because understanding how we do the basic survival is the same way in which our brain does the social survival and also the sophisticated survival, like problem solving and creativity. It's all a form of survival. It's just on a scale of sophistication. But we've been wired to focus on the negative because if the survival, the primal survival has not been sorted, the rest can't happen. So we need to be intentional about our mindset. Because we've been hardwired to focus on the stuff that's the primitive survival things, we're naturally good at overestimating the effort or the challenge, and naturally bad at really appreciating the value and the reward of the stuff that we are reaching for. And that is how this relates to resilient leadership and the energy that's allocated to the rewards that we are setting, or the goals that we're setting for ourselves. So let me tell you how the brain does this balancing and this assessing. We use this value tagging system to predict the outcome of scenarios. We predict, is this going to be a high reward? And we predict, is this going to be a high effort? And what the brain then does is it constantly balances out perceived effort and perceived reward in order to know how much energy to allocate to activities and to goals, because our energy is finite. We only have a limited amount of energy. So in order to stay alive, the brain has this incredible way. The Lord's ways are so amazing that our brain subconsciously, there's a difference, but probably very similar, subconsciously and continuously in everything we do, the brain's calculating, how do I maximize this limited resource, this energy that I've got that's so precious, that's going to help me survive and thrive. So it constantly does this balancing, seeing, oh, this is going to be a lot of effort, but the reward is just a little bit more. So I'm going to allocate just a little amount of effort. And you'll feel that feeling of, okay, cool, let's just get through this. Or you would see, whoa, this reward is going to be huge. And the effort, it's so low. It's definitely worth doing it. And you'll feel this enthusiasm and motivation and drive towards that goal. Or you'll see, this reward is tiny and the effort is so high. This is absolutely not worth my finite resource of energy. I've only got so much, got a lot of other things to do. I'd really rather allocate it to the things that is where the reward is much higher than the effort. And it's a constant subconscious, it's a continuous thing that happens in the subconscious. We think we are making these decisions. We're only participating almost in the last small part of the process. All of the other things are determined by our mindset, our perceptions. It's happening in the subconscious, this drawing us towards the reward or moving away from the effort.
Nina,
Does that make
that's so
sense?
good. This is really resonating with me. I just wanted to ask you to maybe give a practical example of your own life where you see this working out. So I'm hearing the subconscious processing in my brain is constantly weighing up effort and reward with every decision, every choice that I make,
Mm-hmm.
every task, every
Mm-hmm.
activity. And as I weigh that up, it influences my energy, and that
Mm-hmm.
is linked to our resilience. But just give an example of how where this plays out for you personally. Would you mind doing that?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for asking. And that's exactly right. You've listened well. So um, maybe an example that uses the same thing of driving. So just this past Sunday, it was my brother's 30th birthday, and they live 3 hours away from us. and we'll be moving away soon. So it's not going to be, we're not really going to be driving distance from each other anymore. And so we wondered whether we should go or not, because it will have to go there and back in a day. And it really didn't take much energy to even make the decision. It wasn't much of a weighing up. It's just that we valued being there with him and their friends so much that we were willing to drive the 3 hours, have a great day there, and drive the 3 hours back. And we didn't even feel tired afterwards. We were so, our hearts were filled. So that would be an example where the reward was just so much greater than the effort for us. But then also, on what day is today? Thursday. On Tuesday, I felt keen for a specific coffee from a specific coffee shop. It's probably 10 minutes drive away. And I thought about it and then just thought, the driving for that coffee is just not worth it right now. Got so many other things to do, and I can just make the coffee here. It's not as great, but it's similar enough. And it's the same thing as driving, and the one's much easier. It's 10 minutes driving, the other one's 6 hours, or 20 minutes versus 6 hours. But the one's value was just so much more that we were so excited to go. Does that make sense, or should I try another example?
No, those are good examples. So I'm just interested to hear the link between that and resilience. So I'm hearing my brain is constantly weighing up effort and reward that's shaping my decisions. We're talking about resilient leadership, and in a sense, goal setting within that, and mindset. Maybe draw that into a bit of just how those fit together.
Okay, you might have to bounce with me here a little bit if I get too technical. So the thing about resilience is that it's our ability to bounce back, right? So how are we able to overcome these challenges well? Because as we move towards our goals, we will experience some challenges. But if you make sure that your perception of the reward is really high, the energy that the motivation, the enthusiasm, the optimism that you experience, and that energy to drive towards that goal, your brain will allocate a lot to you. So you would much easier overcome those challenges. That's where resilience comes in. You'll be able to bounce back from those challenges because you've set yourself up. You've spent the time to work on your mindset and set yourself up well to overcome the challenges that you will definitely experience on your way to reaching your goals. And goals can be stuff that you do today, like on a task level, or it could be big things that you set out for yourself.
That's really good. There's a lot of material out there around resilience and how the practices that enhance resilience. I haven't come across much, if any, that links mindset and goal setting, goal achievement to resilience. And so there's something in this that feels quite unique and really rich for me personally, that sense of having goals, achieving goals, and how that actually builds resilience for me. And in a sense of applying that to my team as well. As we as a team are setting goals and achieving our goals, there's a team resilience that I can sense feels quite significant. And particularly as we reach the end of the year, we start to think about reflecting forward into the next year. We're thinking about what are the goals I'm going to set for next year. I'm really excited to delve into the practicalities of this for people, for those who are on our sessions today, because it feels like how we set and achieve our goals is more just like sometimes it feels like it's a little bit intangible. Does it make sense?
It makes
I
sense.
see Leona's got a question though. Leona, do you want to come in with a question? That'd be great to hear from you.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks, Nina. So we use a lot of this in our work also with the homeless community, but today I want to not put that hat on for us. So I was part of a session, and I think it was one of the nation builders where they spoke about spending your energy and time on insiders versus outsiders. I think it was with the King Price culture session we've had, where they were like the onboarding and spend your time on onboarding people while getting the insiders going, and don't spend your energy on on the outsider. So it sounds silly, the two words, but that's what they used on the day. So if I think of resilient leadership and I think of a team, and you constantly want to invest in people, that's kind of your energy people, your includers, the guys who are pushing, who's behind the goal. But then you also have people in the team that kind of push back or hold back. So they take more of the energy. They create sometimes that space of not feeling safe. So in terms of this process, the effort of resilience, of pushing through, really getting through to that person that takes the more effort. So your natural brain function will say, you know what, it's too much effort. Rather spend your time on the other side. So I'm just curious to know your take on that.
That's really good, Leona. Here's a really practical, tangible example for us. And so I know you're going to go to some practicalities now, Nina. So why don't you take us there?
Thanks, Ian. For a moment, I couldn't find my Zoom unmute button, but here we are. Thanks for that, Leon. And it's so great to hear a practical example from the floor, because it's helping me bounce to the next slide, which is a typed out version of what I've just explained. But there's a reason I want to show it to you in this way, is that our goal directedness, or our energy, the amount of energy that is assigned to tasks or goals or who to engage with, is a calculation. It's a formula. That is your anticipated reward from achieving the goal minus the anticipated energy required to overcome the perceived challenge. The anticipated reward from achieving the goal minus the anticipated energy required to overcome the perceived challenge. The important thing I want you to notice is these words. There should be one more. Whoop, not all of them. Okay, never mind. We'll keep everything on the slide. Anticipated reward and anticipated energy. This is important because what we anticipate and what we perceive is influenced by our mindset. That is why this is something that we can do something about. That's why we are supposed to be involved and intentional about what we feed our mindset, because how we see the world and our perception of everything around us actually influence our ability to reach our goals. It has a physical effect on how well our mind subconsciously draws us closer to the rewards or moves us further away from the threats. And that's all mindset. The circumstances can be exactly the same, and you'll see people with the same skills respond differently to situations because of their mindset. And the thing is, it's not necessarily the reality. It is anticipated and perceived. So we respond in a way that we see the world, but it's not the reality that the reward is that low and the energy is going to take and the perceived challenge is that high. And chances are you've underestimated the reward and you've overestimated the challenge, because that's what we're good at. That's how we've been made way back when we were still surviving on the plains of the Kalahari and we need to run away from a lion or we need to go get our food. It was a very physical thing, but today's threats are a lot more soft, if I can put it that way. So you need to get out of that anxious state and be intentional about mindset.
That's very good. I'm looking forward to you unpacking that a bit for us. So that feels that is really significant, that the anticipated energy to overcome a perceived challenge is probably going to be bigger than the actual energy. And so, okay, practically, I know you're going to take us to how do we do that, but that's really
Yes.
significant. I want to draw this link again. It's significant to talk about resilience in leadership and managing our mindset in order to achieve goals, achieve things that we're setting for ourselves and for our teams, and doing that intentionally and managing our mindset intentionally, that is building a resilience to get back up and go again when we fall, when we struggle, when we mess up. So that's really profound, actually.
Yeah, so if we think about resilience as the ability to overcome challenges, then it is important to take note. The most important thing probably on the slide is to know that the way that we perceive the world around us impacts how we respond physically. to overcome the challenges. There's chemicals running through your brain. There's neural pathways that's forming. It's your mindset that's informing it, but it is impacting how you respond, how well you can overcome those challenges, which you will experience. And taking the time to be intentional about your mindset sets you up to live the life that God's called you to live. It has a very physical impact on your life. And it's not just a good suggestion. And that's why I love the scripture. It's not just a good suggestion that Paul made to the Philippians. It's actually a call to be what God's called us to be, to live and do what he's designed us to do, and to live life to the fullest. So Paul says, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, pure, lovely, admirable, anything excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. And then he says, put it into practice. We need to practice these things. You can't wait until you feel really grateful or optimistic or feel like making a joke. Be intentional about putting it into practice. And then the greatest example of all, and this always gets me.
I'll give you a moment, Nina. That's really moving. Sure.
If we think of Jesus being fully human, the joy must have been really big for him to endure the cross.
Yeah. It speaks to the value that he places on us, which is undeserved grace, right? Now you caught me.
Exactly.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Okay, we're unwrapping. So good.
We always get each other going. But hey, the joy of the Lord is our strength.
But
And
just to emphasize that a second, what you just said is that the joy set before him, that the joy of redeeming his bride and the wonder of the redemption of humanity, that he enjoyed the greatest pain and death and suffering, crucifixion, I mean, it's just brutal, isn't it? So sure, thank you for bringing that, it's beautiful.
so good to know that we have him to look up to, that has gone before us. It's really encouraging for me to know that he was fully God, but also fully human, and so his brain worked the same way as ours. So to feel so loved and appreciated is really deep. And I also want to encourage all of you to know that saying the joy of the Lord is your strength is a very true thing. It's a physical, scientific thing that you're calling on, and saying that leaning into and focusing on the joy of the Lord really, truly brings strength. And there's a lot of scripture that talks to this. So after this, you can take a moment and just collect all of those. There'll be some practical suggestions that we're going to go into now that talks about negative thoughts. And I want to encourage you to have substitutes for those, because the Bible's full of truth that we can substitute with, to take captive those thoughts that's not from him and make them obedient to him.
Just before you
Right.
this, Nina, I just wanted to emphasize one thing, that you talked about how it has a physical effect on us. It changes in a sense, our energy. And as we had that gratitude slide up at the beginning, and I was reading what everyone was thankful for, it was really moving, actually. And I found my energy levels increasing. I found this myself feeling excited, stirred, invigorated. And just to emphasize what you're saying, it's really powerful that the intentionality of this practice, sometimes it feels a little bit like a tick box exercise, just doing this because we need to. But there's an intentionality that's really powerful to practice together, of thankfulness, gratitude, that is really impacts our mindset, doesn't it?
It truly does. It impacts our mindset and our neural pathways. Like I say, very physical thing that's happening. So, and it's important to be consistent with those things, because I'm going to touch on it now on the next slide. I'll maybe skip this point because I'm sharing it now, but practicing gratitude consistently physically changes neural pathways in your brain. It nourishes the pathway that takes in the information that shows you opportunities. I don't know if you've heard that story of someone that's got a positive mindset and like a grateful spirit. They had that case study where they walk into the shop and the one would notice like coins on the ground and the other one wouldn't. Or there's a lot of really cool studies like that, and I've experienced it as well, where if I'm grateful, I notice the good things in the day a lot easier. I notice the opportunity for me to engage, to learn, to build relationship. And what that does is it increases my belief and it increases my anticipation of reward. And then that difference is already bigger between the reward and the challenge. So let me just take you back to the slide, because there's one thing that I just want to visually show you. What we want to do with this equation is to increase the anticipation of the value of this reward, how much we anticipate this reward would be, how valuable we anticipate it would be to us, and also to decrease our perception of the challenge. So that's making it really simple, right? We want to up that and down the other one. And I'm going to show you a few practical ways in which we can do that. I'm first going to explain some of the things, and then we're going to go literally into 4 steps. Okay, so there would be no reason for anyone to not do this after this call. I'm removing all of the perceived challenges as much as I can in this moment. Okay, so let's start with increasing the anticipation of rewards. It is a really powerful thing to increase the value of your goals, to increase the perception of how much you value your goals. So there's 2 things you can do to practice that. The first one is prayer or any awareness exercise. So what this does is it helps you to live with greater awareness. And again, it changes the structure of your brain. It's like practicing a muscle of awareness. So say you'd realize, you notice you're struggling to open a bottle or pick stuff up. So you want to get better at that. But if you don't take out focus time, an hour or so, or 10 minutes a day to practice that muscle with which you want to open that bottle or pick up that thing, you can't expect to get better at that during the day. It's exactly the same in your brain. So this neural pathway that's equipped, or that equips you to take in sensory cues in a sensible way, needs to be practiced. And you practice that through focused attention. And prayer is such an effective practice. You can pray for a specific thing. So focused prayer is probably a better way to say it. So if you pray for a lot of different things, your mind runs away with you. But meditate on scripture. Focus attention on one thing. Start with 5 minutes a day. Build it up to 10, 15, and you will experience a difference in your emotional responses. Would be a lot more evened out. It won't be ups and downs. It would be a lot more sensible. And the cues that you take in would also be a lot more sensible is a way to say it, but also appropriate, accurate. And then envisioning the goal and talking about how much you value that, why this is important, what it would mean to you to reach that goal is very important. Envisioning a goal, what that does is it creates that goal, that vision as a reality in your internal mindset. So according to the way that you think, that goal is already the truth. So it's much easier for you to draw closer to that, to apply your energy to reach that, because you've already seen it in your mind's eye. And we also hear this in scripture, that you need to write down that vision so that the herald can run. So talk about that vision, write it down, envision it, make sure you appreciate the value of it. Then character strength practices. So these are characteristics that we for sure take for granted, and we underestimate the impact of this on our resilience and on our mindset and on our ability to reach our goals and to thrive in life. We think we need to wait for enthusiasm or optimism or having a good sense of humor, but I want to challenge you on that and say that it's something you need to nurture and cultivate in your life. You need to be intentional about building that into your life. And how this works, a few examples. Just in preparing for this, I got almost got a serious case of the heebie-jeebies, and I was very nervous. And I had to ask my husband to make a few jokes. He's not really a making jokes on the on-demand guy. So we tried that, had a little bit of a laugh, but then had to do praise and worship, really just generate that enthusiasm and spend time in prayer. and then shifted to curiosity, and that immediately changed my energy and my anticipation of what's going to happen. I thought, what if it's not a complete train smash? What if I don't forget everything I wanted to say? What if I remember it and it goes really well? And I could feel that shift happening, so real for me. So pulling in all of those things is crucial. It's really critical. And I find that for myself, gratitude and humor are the most accessible ones. It's almost like a stepping stone to optimism and enthusiasm. And enthusiasm must be grounded enthusiasm, right? It's a true belief that something good is going to happen. There's something good around the corner. Good things can happen. And does it make sense to you how that increases the anticipation of reward?
Yeah, it does. I was just thinking about how these practices can sometimes feel a little bit superficial. And how do we, what did you suggest? I'm just going to talk about what I'm thankful for, but it's not having an impact on me. How do we make it authentic? How do we make it, take it from superficial to deep?
That's a good one, Ian. And that's a really hard question.
Yeah,
I'm
put you
not
on the
sure
spot.
if I'm glad you asked it, but I think I am. It would be worth answering that question. Well, with gratitude, most specifically, and actually all of them, as we practice this, like I said, it shapes our neural pathways. It makes this net with which we catch the positive things in life. It kind of makes it wider. It makes us more receptive of the true good things to take in. It doesn't make us irrational. That won't happen because we're hardwired to see things in a threatening way. So it will just help us get closer to the reality. So that's more of a long-term thing. But in the shorter term, I would go back to that diagram of perceived threats and rewards and responding out of the reptilian brain or the brain stem or responding out of the prefrontal cortex. So I was going into full flight mode. I literally could not stand still because I actually started laughing because I realized what's busy happening is my heart's pumping, blood to my arms and legs saying, you need to run away.
I'm glad you can.
And in that, me too. But in that moment, it was more just getting back into my prefrontal cortex, into the function of our brain that helps us move towards the reward. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So there's kind of an in the moment, but also a long-term investment thing.
and Cecile, the vet's put this really well in the chat. She says, I've seen this in my own life, that with those practices, even when it feels superficial, it really impacts on a deep level. And I think that's true. And the only other thing I'd say is I've noticed for me that when I do those practices with others, it actually enriches them and makes them deeper. So
Yeah, no, it definitely
good
does.
answer.
And you've probably felt that, thank you, relieved. You've probably felt that in a moment of laughing together as a team, suddenly you feel a bit more okay to tackle the challenges or the hard conversations.
Yeah. Okay, so
So it's a little bit of a,
how do we lessen the sense of challenge and overcoming that? I'd love to hear about that next.
yes, glad you asked. So two things. Negative thought patterns. I'm sure you're all very familiar with that. I'm sure you've all got an ant problem sometimes. We call them automatic negative thoughts. And there's just something that happens during the day. It could be whether you've just sensed someone's expression towards your body language, or it could be a message that you've received or an email, and you didn't even consciously pay attention to it, but there's this automatic negative train of thoughts that's triggered. And negative thoughts to our bucket of energy is proper cracks. You start out with a bucket full of energy, and through these negative thoughts, it just drains us and it depletes us. So firstly, it's good to take those captive, to be aware of to just stop, take your day and see, where do I often go into this pattern of negative thoughts? The other thing is destructive habits. So what destructive habits? It's negative habits. It could be, we all have those in our day to day. We always think about destructive habits as these huge things that people need serious help with, but it could also just be eating unhealthy or scrolling a lot, or when you're low on energy, without even thinking, you go to your phone for that low dopamine kick. But what happens is when you get that dopamine kick, it numbs you, or it doesn't paralyzes you for the true dopamine kick you would have gotten from the good habits. So it reduces your ability to get that dopamine kick from the good things because you are wasting it on the bad things. Does that make sense?
Yes, I actually see this applying or working out of my own life. I was just thinking about an example of when I'm under pressure, running hard, and I'm tired. This is really hard, right? It's harder when you're
Mm-hmm.
exhausted. When I'm exhausted, I find the negative thoughts, the destructive habits, sitting on a phone late at night, reading news or reading, stuff that's actually meaningless. And I
Mm-hmm.
know all the research says being on a phone late at night uh, is actually gives you bad sleep, it impacts your sleep negatively. And
Mm.
yet I find myself at times doing that. And so I hear you, but it's also really hard when we're exhausted.
It is really hard, and that's why we all struggle with it. And then I'm curious, after you've uh, defaulted to that, what you used to, do you feel more energized?
Never. But that's the crazy thing. It's like the Bible talks about a dog returning to his vomit. I mean, it's a horrible image, but that's the reality. We return to these practices that we know are destructive, even if they are small, and find ourselves doing them. And it's really hard to actually get
Hmm.
out of them, to be the intentionality. So I know your next piece is around how to put this into practice, but
Yeah,
like how to make this a reality for us, and I'm looking forward to that. But
great.
I just acknowledging it's not I think maybe the thing I would say here, Nina, is awareness of our state and
Hmm.
knowing the default destructive habits we go to is what you were saying. That's really important in
Exactly.
different circumstances, in different seasons of life, to be aware of our state and to be able to be, okay, consciously make ourselves aware of the fact that I'm therefore likely to do this.
Right.
Is that
I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you brought up that example because it reminds me, I thought to share just a little bit around why it is so hard, why we have this default state that we go into, especially when our energy is low. That's where we see us going into these negative thoughts, destructive habits, and feel ourselves even more drained afterwards. So what's happening in the brain at that time is habits are like pathways that you walk, pathways in a forest or in the woods. The pathways, the habits that you experience or that you practice are the pathways that you walk a lot. So it's so easy to go into those. You don't have to think, you just literally follow the path. That's how a default works. Now, changing that to a new pathway that doesn't exist or that has not been practiced is hard. It's full of leaves and there's trees in the way, and you find yourself getting stuck and then wanting to go back to the default that you know. That's so comfortable. It doesn't take any energy, and therefore it feels right. That's the scary thing, but it's not. So at the beginning, when shifting those habits, it is going to feel extremely hard. It's going to feel like it takes a lot of energy. It's going to feel like it's not the right thing. You're going to question why you're doing it. But just understand that that is how the brain works. It's very normal. It's supposed to be hard. Okay. Which takes us to the next slide, how we can make this happen. So, like Ian said, it's the awareness is the first step. Like in many things, you need to stock take a little bit. Think about where in my life, if I think back over the year, what are goals that I've set for myself that I just didn't get to? Or can you remember days where you felt really depleted? Are there some negative thoughts or stuff that happened that triggered that for you? Or have you picked up habits that you feel are really not life-giving, but somehow you just default to them, especially because you're tired most of the time, but then you just feel worse afterwards? So we're going to give a moment after this for you to just stock take a little bit and then to make a decision. Choose that one thing and start small. I want to encourage you, don't try and look at the goals and the habits and the thoughts that we've mentioned. You can, but start small, set yourself up for success, make a decision and choose one. Am I going to look at a negative habit, a destructive habit? So let's take an example. Say you've you've decided you're going to work on unhealthy snacking. At the end of the day, after a long day of work, you're just depleted and you want to snack the first thing that you can get hold of. So you've made that decision. Then add or remove barriers to that default that you're currently experiencing. This is another way of awareness after you've made this decision. Remember, it's a default, so you go into that without even thinking. So adding a barrier just triggers your prefrontal cortex to say, hey, remember, you've made a decision here, don't do this. Okay, so adding a barrier is, for example, packing away that packet of chips in a container and putting it right at the back of the cupboard, and removing barriers between you and the healthy eating. So if you notice that in the morning I've got heaps of energy, I'll cut up the fruit or the whatever that I want to eat, or make a lot of a big batch of healthy crunchies or something on a Sunday evening, and you pack it for the week. You remove that barrier between you and the healthy eating. Then have a plan or a substitute. So I've now shared the plan or substitute with this example, but for example, with negative thoughts, if I notice that before I need to present, I always have automatic negative thoughts that just run, or before I need to go train, or whatever example you can think of, I'm sure something will come to mind for you and will resonate. Notice that, be aware of that. And I want to encourage you, pray for the Spirit to make you aware of that in the moment. Hey, you're going down this train of negative thoughts and it's running away with you. Take it captive and make it obedient to Him. Have a substitute for those negative thoughts. Have scripture, have something that someone said about you, something really encouraging that's true, the truth that God's spoken over you, your values, good memories, whatever is easy and accessible and memorable for you. Have a substitute for the negative thought that comes so easily, those ants. And then have community and accountability to help you with this, because it's really hard on your own. So ask someone to check in with you and ask, hey, I've noticed you've been more optimistic lately, and you've been making a lot of jokes. It really looks like you're flourishing. Or how's it going with that healthy eating habit that you're trying to pick up, or go for runs together? There's countless examples that I can share, and I hope it's stirring something for you as well. That this makes it a lot more actionable, because the wonderful thing, the glorious thing about this is that the stuff that feels so hard to do, we think it's discipline and it's all of that needs to help us get through our days and reach our goals. It's mindset, and we can do something about that. We have been called to do something about that. And there's scripture that tells us to be thankful and to meditate on the word, and that it's good to eat and spend time with community. So don't take it for granted and don't underestimate that.
Good, Nina. Okay, so help me talk through an example here for myself. Let's see if we can make this a reality for us, for all of us on the call together, because this feels like a really great flow. And I think you put this into a PDF to share afterwards, haven't you?
I have.
Great.
Yes.
This is a really helpful little flow. And so one of the things I noticed for myself, and I think this is probably will be true for a lot of leaders on the call, is that when things are busy, one of the things that I sacrifice is my own personal time of reflection and meditation and prayer. And so I'll get up in the morning, and the first thing that I get out of bed, and I'm thinking, okay, it's whatever time it is, 5:30, and I've got I've got a lot to get through today, and I jump into work and I start working, and suddenly it's like, okay, it's now 7 o'clock, and I've got to get to the office, or I've got to get to dropping kids at school, and then the day happens, and suddenly I'm back into bed. And I haven't taken that time that I know that I need, which is to pause and pray and just allow God to refresh me. And actually, there's something in my soul that's hungering for that, and yet I am avoiding it. So, can you take me through these steps and how we could actually make that tangible for me? I'm not making it easy for you today.
I'm just wondering how easy am I going to make it for you, because we can go really deep. But before we go through these steps, my first thought is, in that moment of making the decision of, you're up anyway.
Yeah.
Then you are balancing effort and the reward. Reward of spending quiet time or reward of spending time on work.
That's good.
And so I would start with going back to that place.
That's good.
I think that's a really good starting point. And I can say that because I've experienced that as well. I've also had that as a goal and have found myself seeing other opportunities to do something to be productive. Because my anticipation of the reward of those very tangible, productive things are high.
Yes.
But the anticipation of the reward of quiet time, I've not spent enough time on valuing that.
That's good. So I mean, and I think Tim Brown's put this in the chat. That's really good. The Martin Luther quote that I have so much to do that I shall spend the 3 hours in prayer.
Yes, exactly.
And what you're saying is, as you get up, I need to find a way to remind myself of the value of that time of meditation and prayer, and the reward of that, in a sense, the benefit of that for my soul, for my body, for every part of me through the day. So to actually keep it, must feel like I need to have it stuck on my forehead.
There is scripture for that as
Okay.
well. So practically, if you want to go through these steps, I would say initially, so what I now recommended is more of a neural pathway change that takes longer to experience the fruit of. But in the meantime, to decide very practically what you will do in the first 30 minutes. Say you set aside, you commit to 30 minutes, and in the first 5 minutes, you're gonna meditate on a certain scripture or pray. Just put that down for yourself so that you remove the barrier of deciding what it is that you're going to do in that time.
That's good. I like that.
Because that is enough resistance for you to shift into the step where the decisions have already been made for you, which is emails or all of those other things that's so easy to jump onto. So you've made the decision to prioritize this. Well done. Remove the barriers of decision making, even decisions of where you're going to sit, and add barriers between you and the things that's going to distract you in that moment. If this is really important to you, add barriers between you and whatever's going to trigger you going into those distractions.
I ask my wife to hide my laptop at night.
Yes, that's a good
I'll find
start.
it in the morning.
And she's not easy to convince to give it back. I know. So that's a very secure plan.
So add barriers towards the things that are keeping me from my goal, and
Yes.
remove barriers from the things that are keeping me from doing what I want to do. That's really good. That's super helpful.
Yeah. And we underestimate the barrier of decision making. I think there's a lot of training gyms that has started, you literally just have to arrive. They've planned everything that you need to do. And we see a lot of people going to those because all you have to do is pitch up. The barrier of decision making has been removed. So while you've got energy, decide what are those things that you're gonna read, break it down even into 5-minute slots. And even in practicing it, you'll get that feedback loop of, oh, the value of this is really high. So that anticipation of the reward for the next time is going to increase and the perception of the challenge is going to decrease. And then you're in that healthy balance again.
Okay.
Then having a plan or a substitute, I think we've also included in this example now, but so the substitute is the goal, what you want to be doing, yeah. And then community and accountability is extremely powerful.
Hold on a second. I didn't quite get the substitute one there. Just explain that again. Sorry.
So the negative habit, thank you for bringing me back there. The negative habit you want to avoid here, right, is to go for those distractions.
Yes.
And the substitute, it's going to be ineffective to just say, I'm not going to do that. It'll be more effective to say, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this. And what you're going to do is, in this example, the goal.
Okay. Got you.
Which is time in prayer, quiet time.
Got you. That makes sense.
Yes. And then lastly, accountability, which is just a way to also set yourself up for success. And it makes it a lot easier. Yeah, I've seen that this elevates your chances or the probability of actually consistently keeping to those good goals, those good habits.
Okay.
At least for the first part, while we're in this tension of the pathway in the forest that's been walked over the years and this new one that we're carving out, accountability and community for that first phase of making that shift is, I almost want to say, critical for getting it right consistently.
That's really great. So let me run this through and just may play back what I'm hearing, and you can add to it or just flesh it out a bit if there's anything I'm missing, Nina. But so as I look at my life, I want to step into things that enable me to thrive. I think we all want that in our lives. There's nobody who goes, I really want to just make life a struggle. I actually want to thrive in life. And so I'm going to make a decision to start to step into the things that are going to help me really be my best. I'm going to remove the barriers towards that and add barriers to the things that I don't want to do. I'm going to find a way to make sure I'm substituting the negativity and the challenges with the positivity. I'm going to engage community with me on that. What this is doing is it's increasing a really great mindset for me. I'm achieving goals and I'm getting things done that are enriching me. And all of that is making me as a leader more resilient.
100%. Well said.
Wow, that's so good. So good.
And it's so
Do you
doable,
think,
right? It's not hard.
yeah,
Oh, it's hard. It's not complicated.
but this is the time of year where for all of us as leaders, for a lot of us, not all of us, I mean, we're on that surviving to thriving scale. Some leaders said that we're ending the year on a positive note and relatively thriving, which is great. But it's a good moment to sort of take a stock of our lives and to say, what are the decisions we want to make for the coming year? What are the things we want to put into practice? And what are the barriers we're going to add or remove? And the plan and the substitute and the community we're going to pull in. That's really great. It's an opportunity for us to reflect and do that. And maybe we should just have a moment of just being quiet. And for all of you who are with us today, is just to think about some of the things that you want to do on this. Take some time to actually, maybe you can put that slide back up, Nina, those 4 steps, because I think it's really helpful to have it as a visual aid for us.
Mm.
Think about what are the things I'm going to do now over this coming, if you're taking time off over this Christmas season, what are the things you're going to do to really start to make some conscious decisions and to start to put some healthy practices to improve your mindset and healthy goals so that you can be more resilient as a leader and perhaps even as a team. Think about this for your own team together, how you're going to do this. So maybe let's take, how are we doing for time? We've got a couple of minutes. Let's take 2 minutes. We're going to just be silent. Silence is so powerful, and I don't be distracted. So if you're on this session and you're going, oh, I could actually just jump into a couple of emails, don't shortchange yourself. You've put the effort into being here, taking the time to join us today. Take a moment to just go through this process for a couple of things you're going to do over the next few weeks, some pathways that you want to start to wear that you know are going to take you to places where you've not traveled before. So I'm going to put a timer on, and in 2 minutes, I'm going to call us back. And I actually thought about putting music on, but Nina, I'm going to just let it be quiet and let people really be internally where they're at. So 2 minutes begins now, and I will call you back in 2 minutes. And then we're going to wrap up. Got a few things to share, that exciting things for 2025 that are coming up. So don't jump off right now. Take these 2 minutes for yourself. This is for you. So good. Yeah, that's really great. I found this personally really, Nina. I mean, I know you and I prepared and for this, but it's been so helpful to go through that moment of silence. Any questions, any comments? We've got a lot in the chat. I like what Kumar said, is evaluate regularly what I'm doing. And it's good to celebrate what God is doing in me, celebrate myself, and now how I can do that better so I can continue to grow. Thanks, Kumar. If you've got any questions for Nina, put them in the chat. Okay, so great. Pavel, thank you. Pavel says generally people decrease the reward and increase the anticipated challenge. Yeah, that's very true. However, some people are more optimistic and they tend to increase the anticipated reward and don't think about the challenge. Good point. What would you say to people, such people who avoid the challenge, ignore it, don't see it? That's a really interesting point.
That's great, Pavel. Thank you. Um, I would engage in very healthy conversation with them, safe space, and help them discover, because what they've probably got some sort of uh, uh, value tagging system where they've experienced very positive things in that specific scenario, and they haven't experienced enough relevant threats in that scenario to help them see the reality. So to help them discover the reality, asking questions of I remember, I can share an example. I was very optimistic about certain things like hiking in the mountain at university and sleeping there with a group of friends. And then my one friend, she was again very realistic and would ask me, so have you thought about what you're gonna take with you? What are you gonna sleep under? And I realized I haven't thought about that. And so just I don't even have to explain the rest of the example. I think you can understand what happened, but asking questions, but very powerful to help them discover what are the real challenges and to help them come closer to the reality of the specific scenario in a way that doesn't cause them to shy away from it, but to help them just be better prepared. Does that make sense, or does it?
It does make sense. I can see that people with an immense amount of natural positivity actually going into things that are potential barriers can feel very negative, and that can be very hard. And and actually, it's important to be able to see the value of being able to see those, name them, and address them, so we can achieve our goals. And so that's not so easy though.
That's right.
But
It's not easy. And I might just want to add, I would recommend not telling them what the threats are. If they really can't see it themselves after a discovery process, then for sure. But just helping them go through that process in their own brain, creating that new reality for themselves, sharing some of your own experiences and stories and case studies. It's going to be a lot more powerful than just telling it to them. Chances are they'll then want to just prove to you how it's actually a good idea what they were thinking.
Good. Okay.
Thanks,
What
Pavel.
I'm going to do is I'm going to start to close this out with just an opportunity for you to put something into the AHA slides about what you're going to put into practice. But at the same time, if you've got a burning question, put it in the chat. We're still here to address those. So if you've got something that you would like to come off mute and ask or put in the chat, we will still do that. But let's just go to looking at some feedback. And first of all, if you've been here today and you've got questions and you'd like to follow up, please do feel free to email Nina at 54collective.com. She would love to hear from you. She loves engaging. She's very relational, as I said, so she will enjoy hearing from you. The next thing I just want to ask you to do is to think about what's one thing you're going to do next as a result of this live learning session. So if you've left AHA slides, I'm going to put that QR code back up. Jump onto that and just think for a moment of what you're going to put into practice from today. What is one thing that you're going to do? And this is a great opportunity for all of us to be stirred, sparked by your ideas, by your learning, by what you're going to put into practice. So take some time to put that in, and let's just see what's coming through in the chat. Thanks, Carl. Yes. Thank you, Carl, for bringing this. Cecile's question was really good. Would be interesting to dive into how trauma impacts perceptions. and the role of counseling within and therapy within challenging unhelpful mindsets and thinking patterns. Now, I mean, trauma brings a whole new element to this, and not it's a really deep conversation, this. So I'm not sure we're going to have time to go into this much, but just any initial thoughts on trauma and the impact on our mindsets, the survival mindset that you talked about, Nina. Any initial thoughts on this?
Sure, that is a very big conversation here, but I'll try to keep it short. So firstly, the trauma changes our neural pathways. That's the very important thing to acknowledge. It changes the way that we think. It makes us see only or a lot more all of the threats that's around us, the perceived threats that are not always real. The way to make those neural pathways more healthy is just to bring that into the light and to talk about the traumatizing events a lot, over and over again until you take what has happened in the unconscious and bring it into the conscious. That's the neurological thing you want to see happen. And then only you can start with building on the healthy things again. I think stuff like gratitude, optimism, humor, valuing of rewards are not going to be so effective if you haven't done the foundational thing of changing those neural pathways back to the healthy state, and that you do through talking about it with people that you trust and praying into it. Yeah,
That's good.
That's the starting point.
That feels like it's a huge topic to delve into at another time, because it takes this into, there's a lot there, and I love what you said. It's being patient, it's talking, it's engaging. Yeah, really, really great. It's I think that's a helpful start, but something for us to think about for next year, perhaps specifically to talk about how we use this in terms of addressing trauma. There's some great things coming through, just about celebrating big and small victories more often. That's really powerful, that actually just stop. It's something we as a team have as a rhythm, is every Friday morning we just stop and celebrate the week and what's happened, and make it a weekly rhythm for you and your team. We find it incredibly powerful to do that. It builds connection. It creates energy. It's fantastic. Allowing joy to influence my way of being. Pursue alignment between my perception and my reality. I really like that, because I think sometimes, as you said, Nina, the barrier feels really hard, and it's not as reality. Our experience is that it's not actually quite as hard to do things as we think it might be.
Yeah, it's good. I like that.
Okay, I'm going to put this back up at the end. Keep those coming in. It's so good to get your thoughts. I just want to talk about a couple of things that are coming up that we're really excited about for 2025 as a 54 team. We've been working hard because we care about you as leaders and what you're doing. And so here's a few highlights. First of all, thank you for your participation with us this year. It's been a great gift to us to be able to walk alongside you in some small way. And so some of the things we're excited about for this coming year is, first of all, we're launching a brand new website with easier course access. That's going to be coming in the first quarter of next year. So look out for that. It's going to give facelift to our site, better access to courses. Your user dashboard is going to look so much better. So look out for that. Our 9D capacity assessment is improving. It's going to have a much better look and feel with some revised statements. A real way for you to get a sense of your organization and where you're at. So look out for that coming also in the first quarter of 2025. And then probably about halfway through the year, we're looking at end of June. Very, very excited that the 54 app is being launched. And so 54 will be available on your phone on an app. The platform and the learning and the courses and the 9D assessment will be available to you by the middle of next year. That's a really exciting development. And lastly, we've been running some virtual guided groups. It's an opportunity for you to take the learning of the 54 platform, take it back to your team, and engage around how to put this into practice together as a team. So that's a really exciting development, and we're looking forward to seeing that grow and develop. And then just to come back, I did miss it. We would love your feedback for us today. Renette is going to launch a poll And so we'd love your thoughts. Just give us your feedback. How have you found the session? And scroll down. There are 4 questions there. It's so important for us to keep learning from you, hearing from you, seeing what's landing for you. And if you want to give more direct feedback, please do that. I've given you, again, Nina's email address. Would love to hear from you. What are the sort of things that you're battling with? What would you love us to be focusing on? What is the learning that you would like to see us bringing to you in 2025? We'd love to hear from you. As you go through the poll, the last thing I want to mention to you that's really exciting, our live learning sessions are going to continue through 2025. We've done 12 sessions this year, and these sessions are going to continue through next year. In January, we're looking at unlocking healthy organizations, how to build strong for lasting impact with Neil Hart. Neil is passionate about this topic. It's going to bring some great insights into unlocking the health of your organization. In February, we've got a really exciting session with David Patty. David Patty is going to talk about navigating the stages of organizational growth, right? As you lead, whether it's a startup or a growing organization or a mature organization, how you lead is different. It needs to be different. And that's really important. So I'm excited for that conversation with Dave. There are a whole lot more sessions coming to you in 2025. And so jump onto 54collective.com, get registered now, put those in your diary. We're really excited to see you and engage with you through the next year. One more thing to mention is that we have a WhatsApp community, and some of these things I've mentioned that are coming up for 2025, we'll be posting on our WhatsApp channel. And if you're not on that yet, you can open your WhatsApp now. You'll see there's a camera at the top. You can scan that QR code and join our 54 Learning group, where we will share insights and exciting announcements of developments in the coming 3-4 months and ongoing through 2025. That's a wrap. Nina, you've been an absolute star. Thank you for bringing all that you have to us. It's been such a gift for us to share this learning with you today. And I'm so grateful to you for your hard work in preparing this. Yeah, just 54s are so much more to bring in the coming year because of what you've done, Nina. And so thank you for your time. Thank you to all of you who've joined us today, and have a really restful few weeks ahead. We're excited to see you in the new year. And I just trust that the goals that you've set for yourself, that you've got new and tangible ways to put this into practice, to really see yourself as a leader thrive in the coming year. Achieve those goals, build resilience, and really just create thriving teams that impact the people and the communities that you're serving. Well done, Nina.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you, everyone. May the joy of the Lord really be your strength, and have a wonderful, restful season. Thanks for joining. Thanks, Ian.